Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this exciting event, part of a project dedicated to promoting the best uses and practices of artificial intelligence. Today, we're exploring how AI is transforming the future of the job market and disciplines. And trust me, this is going to be a fascinating journey. Before we dive in, I want to give a huge thanks to the amazing students who made this event possible. Alfredo, Gabriela, Daniela, Ana, Daniel Rios, Ericus, Genevieve, Joseph, Valentina, Veronica, Daniel Lopez, Gia, Marcela, Rihanna, and Diego. Your hard work has been incredible, and none of this would have happened without you. A heartfelt thank you to Vilmari for including me in this adventure and for keeping all of us in track. To the wonderful faculty who have supported us throughout: Kevin, Robertson, Emmanuel, Amanda, Jeffrey, Charin, Mr. Fortes, Mr. Novak, Lulu, Tyler, Estrada, and the maintenance crew. I truly appreciate all you have done to make this event a reality. Of course, a big thank you goes to the inspired panelists for the IA Unlock Transforming Disciplines and Redefining Futures, some of whom we admire deeply and others who are dear friends. You have been a source of great inspiration, and we are honored to have you here today. Ahora en español, because it's how my heart speaks. Gracias a todos por decir que sí. Estoy súper emocionada y espero que esto sea del beneficio para todos. And with that led me, ahora voy a presentar a my absolutely favorite duo of presentadores ever. Gabriela Márquez y Alfredo Ortiz. Let's get started.
Buenos días, buenos días.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Robinson School's first AI panel. We'll be talking about a very important topic: artificial intelligence.
Exactly, Alfredo. AI, let's face it, it's part of our everyday lives. And from personalized content to virtual assistants, it's there. With that in mind, today's panel focuses on how all of these different industries are adapting to the use of AI and how can we use them responsibly.
However, before we get started, we want to give a big thanks to Ms. Milmari Torres and Ms. Taira Rivera for their support in organizing this event. A big round of applause.
We also want to express our gratitude to our panelists for joining us today. They'll be sharing insights from their industries on the opportunities, the challenges, and the ethical considerations of using AI.
We'll begin by introducing each of the panelists. We'll start with Maristella Collazo-Soto, a capital member of the Ferraioli Group, co-chair of the Intellectual Property Practice Group, and a member of the Compensation Committee. She specializes in intellectual property from transactional, strategic, and litigation perspectives. Maristella has represented clients across several states and serves as an adjunct professor at the University of Puerto Rico School of Law. She holds an LLM in intellectual property from Fordham University and is president of the Caribe Girl Scouts Council.
Now, let's welcome Ms. Wanda Fraguada, who began her marketing and advertising career in 2008 after earning her master's in translation from the University of Puerto Rico, Rio Piedras campus. With over a decade of experience, including 5 years in digital marketing at companies like Avon, Wireless Idea, J. Walter Thompson, and GFR Media, Wanda also served as marketing manager at Parallel 18, leading efforts to promote startups and engage stakeholders. A digital nerd and creative at heart, she now runs her own marketing agency, Ponlo a Volar, and consults for startups and programs such as Endeavor Puerto Rico and Jump All In. Wanda holds a BA in Information and Journalism from the University of Puerto Rico.
Now presenting John Joe Pereira Rodríguez, known as JJ, a professional photographer with over 15 years of experience, specializing in weddings. His style blends documentary, photojournalistic, and artistic techniques to capture authentic moments with natural beauty. Supported by a dedicated team, he delivers personalized and high-quality service that reflects the importance of each event in his company, Photo Art.
Yes, and now let's welcome Mr. Alberto José Chévere-Figueroa, who launched Alberto Chévere Photography in 2010. With a bachelor's in business administration and a master's in human resource management, he blends his academic background with a passion for photography. Known for quinceañera photography, Alberto also works on weddings, corporate photos, and social events. In 2021, he started dedicating himself full-time to his business. Beyond photography, he is an avid mountain biker and creates content for YouTube.
And last but certainly not least, Joshua Castro, an artificial intelligence specialist since 2020, founded one of the first AI companies in Puerto Rico and leads the island's largest and fastest growing AI community. With his own TV segment, he makes AI advancements easy for everyone to understand. His talent for simplifying complex topics has made him a key figure in technology, offering a unique perspective on the future of artificial intelligence.
Well, now that you've met all of our panelists today, let's move into some general questions. Remember that if at any point you have a question that you would like to ask any of our panelists, signal your ushers and they will let us know. Okay, so let's move on to those general questions, shall we, Alfredo?
Yes, so to all our panelists here today, how do you see your specific industries changing with the use of artificial intelligence?
Good morning. In terms of marketing, what we've been seeing is acceleration of processes and also acceleration of how we write and promote and build content strategies. It will not necessarily substitute us yet. There's a lot of human input that needs to be there in terms to make it genuine and to make it connect with other people. But for sure, it has accelerated processes within the marketing industry and also customer service.
Yes, definitely. I think we can agree with that. We see the use of AI in our everyday lives, but it's still useful to add that human touch. So, for any of our panelists, yet again, how have you integrated the use of AI into your respective fields?
Good morning, Hawks. So, the way in the legal field, which is where I work, we are now using it to help us with our research, our legal research, and also to help with some areas of the writing. As you know, lawyers write a lot. So it's important to know that you have that tool to help you if you're ever stuck or if you need a little bit of inspiration, but not too much because there are legal repercussions of using AI in your work. So that's basically how we're using AI, and we also have a lot more work because AI can be risky, so.
Yes, definitely.
Yes, and so with that, we'll move on to another question, which is, what do you guys believe are the biggest opportunities and challenges posed by AI in your respective fields?
Good morning, my name is Joshua. In my respective field, I think personalization is going to be a term that we're going to see a lot with AI. In my field and in many fields, medical, marketing, legal, all of the field are going to, education, they're going to experiment a personalization growth and interpretation in each one of the subfields. So instead, in marketing, instead of you going to the supermarket and having a shopper, you're going to have a personalized shopper for each and every one of you. Education as well, instead of having a teacher that just teaches the same curriculum for 30 students, each and every one of you is going to have a personalized tutor. And in marketing and in content, the content is going to be personalized for you. Instead of watching a Netflix movie or watching a YouTube video made for thousands and millions of people, you can create your own YouTube video or your own content based on your interest as you are watching it. So personalization is going to be a term that is going to be across many industries and it's going to attack thanks to AI.
That sounds wonderful. So basically, as AI evolves, do so as well, right? So in your opinion, how can professionals in your industry best prepare for this increasing influence of artificial intelligence?
Bueno, buenos días, saludos a todos. Voy a hablar en español para que mi mensaje le pueda llegar, ¿verdad?, de una manera fácil. En nuestra industria de la fotografía es una industria que siempre está en constante evolución. El AI siempre está en constante evolución, por lo tanto, la persona que esté en nuestro campo fotográfico tiene que estar abierta a aprender técnicas nuevas, a invertir dinero, ¿verdad?, para aplicar perdón, se me fue la palabra que estoy nervioso. Tienen que tener la mente abierta para que utilizar la inteligencia artificial a su favor. Por ejemplo, cuando llegó la inteligencia artificial a mí, por ejemplo en Photoshop, a mí me gusta crear que las imágenes parezcan mágicas, que los lugares no sean parecidos, que cuando el cliente llegó al lugar y yo le entregué la imagen, el lugar no se parezca a lo que vio en persona. Por lo tanto, yo tuve que aprender a utilizar esas herramientas porque si lo hubiera tenido el miedo a utilizarlas, pues no hubiera podido crear ese tipo de imágenes.
Yes, so basically, with the use of AI, specifically in Photoshop, as he likes to make his photos seem that more enhanced, it is useful that, we incorporate AI into the use of photography so that we can better enhance our photos, but also, take them to that next level, right?
Yeah, I feel like use them as a resource. Do not become overly dependent on it, yet again, as a resource to further that inspiration, to give you some sort of inspiration to create the work.
Exactly. And with that, to our final panelists, in your opinion, how can professionals in your industry best prepare for the increasing influence of AI?
Ok, saludos. Voy a contestar también en español para que la respuesta sea la más eficiente. Básicamente, cómo nos podemos preparar es manteniéndonos actualizados con todos los updates que tiene AI y básicamente no abusar del AI, sino que utilizar el AI como una herramienta progresiva y positiva para poder mejorar nuestros trabajos y poder llevar nuestro trabajo a un próximo nivel.
Yes, so with AI, we need to incorporate it to take our work into the next level, but also, not substitute our own work, like Gabriela said earlier.
Yeah, it's a progressive tool. It's a tool. We have to remember it's a tool that's meant to enhance our own work. So thank you so much, all of you, for sharing your thoughts. Now, let's dive a bit into specific questions that are titled to your respective industries.
So we'll start with Maristella. As an expert in intellectual property law, you've witnessed the rapid evolution of technology and the challenges of keeping legal frameworks up to date. How do you see intellectual property law evolving with the rise of AI?
That's a really great question. I think that AI has two sides to intellectual property. Intellectual property, by the way, is the area of law that governs trademarks, like, for example, Goya, Si Tiene Que Ser Bueno, Amex. All of those are trademarks, right? Apple, Adidas, which I see a lot of here today. All of those are trademarks, so it's part of what I help protect. Copyrights, which includes music, protecting the songs, the lyrics, patents, and the right to use images, right? The right to use your faces, your bodies, or particular expressions. So that with AI has two sides, a positive and a risky. The positive side is that AI can help enhance all of this intellectual property. It can help enhance it with the images, but I'm gonna discuss the risky side, and I'm gonna use the example of a photographer because we have one here today. So AI can help enhance his image and add a few tweaks that probably he can't do it on his own, and the image comes out beautiful and better. But if you use too much AI in a work product that you're gonna generate, the Office of Copyright in the United States and the United States Supreme Court has said that you lose authorship over your work. So you have to keep an important balance between using just the necessary minimal enhancement from AI and delving too much into AI because you might lose your protection altogether. So intellectual property has those two visions, right? It can help a lot, but if you cross a certain line, which is, different for every area, then you can lose what you've created with so much hard work.
Yes, definitely. I feel like I particularly love the point about two sides of the same coin, where we have to evaluate the responsible use of AI and drive it to its limit, but be aware of that limit. So now let's move on to Miss Wanda Fraguada. As someone with extensive experience in digital marketing, you've been able to see firsthand how artificial intelligence has the power to transform the way brands communicate with customers. And with your expertise of integrating artificial intelligence into marketing strategies, we feel like you bring a really unique perspective to the conversation. So how do you see digital marketing evolving through the use of artificial intelligence?
Well, for starters, we have to segment this in different ways because digital marketing encompasses content development, includes advertising, includes email marketing, includes a bunch of touch points that you have with the customer before you actually convert it into a customer. So in terms of how AI has affected in some way digital marketing, we for sure know that in terms of what we have in experiences in websites, for example, those chatbots that are automated and you feed them with information about your company, they help you treat with customers faster. They also help a lot with analysis. When you do digital marketing, you have an enormous amount of data that needs to be analyzed, even if you're running campaigns or if it's organic content or if it's email marketing. So all of those reports, you can input them up there and they will help you turn out better results in terms of reports. The data comes cleaner and it's faster when you analyze it. In terms of content generation, like if you train, for example, ChatGPT with enough information about your customers' brand, voice, goals, previous content generated, it'll help you just jumpstart that part of a content calendar for social media, for example. It is very important that you double check, that you make sure that there are not incorrections, make sure that you know that AI is biased because AI models are trained by humans and humans by nature, we are biased. So make sure that when you're using that, when you're a marketer, you're portraying the world as you see it. So if you're not aligned or editing that content before and giving it a personal touch, you might be just perpetuating biases, for example. You can use it a lot to interpret the triggers and behaviors of your customers and make sure that your email campaigns are even more successful. So it all depends on which area of digital marketing you're specializing in, how it will transform the way you work. Now that I'm working for myself and I am my only employee, it's been helping me a lot to just clone myself in a way to make things move faster. So if I have meetings, for example, I use a tool called Tactic. It just transcribes your whole a Google Meet or Zoom, and then I feed that up to ChatGPT to just clean it up a little bit and start, okay, help me make a proposal for this. And with their Canvas tool, then I start just commenting on the sides, no, this makes no sense, this is correct, maybe you could put this here. And it starts cleaning it up a little bit with my input. So that has helped me a lot move faster with things that would have taken me maybe 2-3 days.
Yes, so ChatGPT and other AI tools is a useful way to increase our efficiency, but also we got to remember that biases and that ChatGPT is not a real person, so we have to, get it accustomed to our real world. And so with that being said, we move on to our next panelist, Alberto José Chévere. And as a professional photographer, you've experienced how the tools of trade have evolved over the years. And so how do you think AI will change the way photographers approach pictures?
La inteligencia artificial en la fotografía nos ayuda grandemente en acelerar lo que es nuestro flujo de trabajo. Al automatizar nuestro flujo de trabajo, podemos editar las fotos más rápido, entregárselas al cliente con mayor inmediatez, como estamos en un mundo que todo tiene que ser, ¿verdad? En unos tiempos, perdón, que todo tiene que ser rápido y queremos tener preservar que nuestros clientes mantengan esas emociones, por ejemplo, de sus eventos. Tenemos una boda sábado y ya queremos que el lunes ellos tengan por lo menos un preview de la gran cantidad de fotos para que ellos pues, puedan compartirlas en sus redes sociales. Eso nos beneficia a nosotros también porque cuando ellos comparten esas fotos en las redes sociales, pues sus seguidores o sus familias van a empezar a ver nuestros trabajos. También, como les mencioné antes, nosotros podemos hacer de una imagen ordinaria a una imagen extraordinaria, creándole elementos que en el lugar no estaban presentes. Por ejemplo, en mi caso, yo hago mucha fotografía de quinceañeras y a mí me gustan que las imágenes de las quinceañeras sean algo mágico. Cuando yo estoy trabajando en un bosque, por ejemplo, aquí cerca hay un bosque en Piñones, a mí me gusta crearle que si un río por el lado, mariposas, flores, y cuando ellas vean sus fotos sean algo bien bonito.
Wow, so yes, once again, we see how AI is being used to increase efficiency, but also deliver those high quality results that we all want.
Yes, definitely. So if there are any quinceañeras, remember to call Alberto Chévere Photography.
And
Well,
so
you guys
with
have
that-
prom coming next year, so
And so with that, we'll move to John Joe Pereira Rodríguez, also a professional photographer who has avid experience in this field. And so with that, how do you think AI is influencing photography and specifically editing tools and image creation?
Ok, el AI cuando llegó al mundo de la fotografía fue un plus, literal. Nosotros básicamente podíamos tener una boda sábado sobre 3.000, 4.000 fotos y ya en la semana teníamos otros eventos corporativos y el sábado siguiente otras bodas. ¿Qué pasa? Eso nos atrasaba demasiado el trabajo y teníamos que básicamente vivir frente a la computadora. Y lo que antes nos ocupaba 2 meses, 3 meses, hoy en día el AI nos ha facilitado el trabajo porque el mismo AI se acopla a nuestro workflow. El AI se ha convertido básicamente en un asistente virtual que nosotros la programamos para que pueda identificar las fotos que nosotros queremos entregarle al cliente. Dejamos ese proceso automático mientras podemos concentrarnos en la parte creativa, parte administrativa de nuestro negocio y así podemos maximizar el trabajo.
Yes, so it's definitely all comes down to using AI as more of like an assistant. And I specifically like the way you mentioned that it adapts to our workflow. That's what Ms. Fraguada was talking about earlier, how we train AI to adapt to our pace, to our work. And I feel like AI all comes down to being a creative enhancement to further the quality of our work. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And lastly, Joshua, your work has been key to bridging the gap between what is artificial intelligence and education through workshops and social media, which all in all makes you an expert in how technology has the power to transform learning. And with your insights, we are definitely looking forward to understanding how artificial intelligence reshapes both content creation and education. So with this in mind, how do you see the academic environment transforming due to the integration of AI?
As I said before, personalization in education. So last Friday, I had my first workshop event where we created a artificial generated play, and with the characters were generated by AI, the music was generated by AI, the lectures was generated by AI, and we gave the attendees a personalized tutor after the event where they can ask any questions or any doubts that they have, and the assistant would just answer directly to them based on their interests and their needs and their level of understanding. So that we're going to see a lot for content creators as well, Meta has announced a lot of new tools for content creators that can talk directly to their audience and their followers and create like a clone, like an extension of themselves. AI is going to be an extension of us. There's a huge wave coming right now called agents, where you have specific AI trained for specific tasks and they can take actions. So content creators, instead of having a group of community managers or social media managers, they're going to have these agents that are going to be an extension of themselves and talk directly to their customers or their followers and have an interaction more personalized with them.
Yes, so there's definitely wide applications to AI, specifically like this example of a play and how we can adapt it to, personalize our needs. And so with that, we'll circle back to Maristella. How can we ensure that AI is used ethically while protecting our personal data?
That's a really great question. The first thing you need to do is if you consider something a trade secret or something that you've created and that is not known by the rest of your peers or in your industry, don't put it in an input for AI, because anything that you put in the input, you lose to the large language models that feed AI, right? So it stops being a protective secret and it stops being a treasure. But on the other side, an ethical use is to disclose every time AI is being used, right? If you included AI in your photography, you should disclose that to your client. If you included AI in your education or in your marketing trends, your clients should know that and have full transparency. And I think that's important because clients should get to choose how much of AI goes into what they are paying for or what they're requesting. And some clients, believe it or not, still don't want to be involved with AI. So I think transparency is a big part of our ethical responsibility.
I want to add to that, for example, Meta tools are asking you when you upload content if the content is AI generated or not, to start flagging it as such. So the social media tools we use and the other tools we're using, they're going to start asking you if you're using AI so that it can market properly.
Yes, I feel like that's useful. The fact of we have transparency within AI-generated work, and as well, I particularly like the way you talked about how everything you input, like if you input something to ChatGPT, it's not yours anymore. You lose it.
You're training the model.
Yeah, you're training the model, and it's so you're losing whatever you're inputting. So you have to be quite careful about what you input and how you use the information any model gives you back outputs.
Exactly. So if you have a really bright idea or something you don't necessarily want to share with the world, maybe don't try inputting in any AI model. And so with that, we'll move to Wanda.
Yes, Miss Wanda, I would like to ask you, what are some strategies that you use to integrate AI in order to optimize digital marketing?
As I mentioned earlier, I usually, if I'm going to do, for example, content, I go to my ChatGPT and I start like telling it about the customer. Its brand voice, how does it communicate, what are the goals, so they can start generating a bunch of a calendar. I ask it like, suggest how the image is going to be and everything. And then I sit down and I edit it, because I used to do a lot of editing when I was supervising a team. So for me, it's easier like to create from editing. So I sit down and I edit, and it makes me a bit faster. In addition, when I'm trying to think about reporting, about conversions, about all of that stuff, like I just put it up and say, okay, I need you to help me do this, X and Y, to understand why X and Y happened. So I see what it gives me, and then I analyze it by myself as well to make sure that we are aligned. In digital marketing and in content, you have to be very careful about editing and giving it your flavor. Mostly because, as the guys mentioned earlier, everything is going to start being generic. Everything is going to start sounding the same. So if you don't give it your flavor and your input, it's going to affect negatively the results of your customer. So you have to be paying attention to all of that.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing. And while we're talking about this, I would like you to talk a little bit about the ethical considerations that come with using AI for this data-driven marketing.
Yeah, you have to be very careful to not incur into plagiarism. AI will give you whatever you ask it, and it would also sell you wrong information as if it's actually true. It would gaslight you if you let it. So you have to make sure, like, you have to revise everything that comes out of it to make sure it's actually correct. On Friday, I was given this example. I was asking it to help me with a proposal, and then it was giving me ideas for Reels/IGTV. And I was like, dude, IGTV was killed by Instagram like 2 years ago. But I was like, am I correct? Like, because we used to think that technology is gonna know more than us all the time. So I'm like, am I questioning myself? Am I right? So then I went to this other side and confirmed it. It had killed it 2 years ago. And I'm like, dude, you can't do this to me. But it gave it to me like it was like really something that was really true. So we have to be really careful that we check that out. We have to be careful that it's giving credit to the correct sources, and you can ask it, like, I need information about X, and Y, and please give me the sources from which you're pulling this from, so you can actually check if they're verified, if they're not leaning to one side or the other of the conversation, and make sure you're not infringing any copyright or anything that's been created by someone else.
If I can add, right now, all of the major AI platforms are being sued for copyright infringement. So Microsoft and ChatGPT, OpenAI are being sued by New York Times, but Perplexity is being sued by Forbes magazine. They have a cease and desist letter from the New York Times. So what she's saying is really important to ask for the sources, but I would add, giving credit is not enough. If you're using the content generated by AI for a commercial purpose, giving credit doesn't save you from copyright infringement, and that's very important. You're students, so obviously the use you're giving it now is probably for personal or educational use, and you're gonna be fine. But if you go out into the world and use it for commercial purposes, it's important to note that you have to have authorization from the source. Credit is not something that will guide you or protect you from a claim of infringement.
Yeah, that's why, for example, when you go to Shutterstock or Adobe Stock or any of the stock images platforms, they will give you, these images are for commercial use only, these are for editorial use only, like each thing has its own permission. And it depends on where you are targeting your digital marketing. How can you also leverage AI and data use? It's not the same thing as if you're gonna do something in Europe, you have to be mindful of GDPR and how it collects data, versus if you're doing something in Puerto Rico or California, it's very different. So you have to be sure that as a professional who's trying to leverage the use of AI, you understand the regulations and the responsibilities you have in your profession, so you don't actually buy everything that the models are giving you, and you're not infringe any laws that can turn then into fines that you or your customer will have to pay.
So yes, I think it's very important that we get from this that it's important to cross-reference and especially cite where we don't use our information, where we don't use our previous knowledge. And so thank you for those insights. And now moving on to our photographers. What are some ethical issues that arise when AI is used to generate or alter images in photography?
Una de las cuestiones que nosotros tenemos que tener como fotógrafos es no, como mencionaron, ¿verdad? No abusar. Yo abuso de la AI en cuestión de que me gusta crear elementos de las imágenes para que se vean lo más mágico posible, lo más brutal posible para el cliente. Pero hay que clarificarle al cliente, porque ya me pasó una experiencia, que lo que están viendo en las imágenes, hay partes que son creadas con AI. Ejemplo, yo les mencioné que yo voy mucho a un bosque en Piñones a hacer sesiones de fotos, y a ese bosque pues yo le creo que si un río, flores, elementos que no existen en vida real allí. Y una clienta me contrató para hacer una sesión de fotos a su quinceañera, ella con la imaginación de que ese lugar tenía un río, tenía flores, tenía unas cosas brutales que estaba viendo en mis fotos en Facebook, y cuando llegamos allí me dice, mira, quiero que me lleves al lugar donde está el río. Y yo, mira, el río yo lo creo, ¿verdad?, en computadora, con inteligencia artificial. Y me dice, ay, me cogiste de boba. Y yo, sí, discúlpame, ¿verdad? Fue mi error no especificar que en el proceso de edición yo utilizo inteligencia artificial para crear esos elementos en la fotografía, pero eso también es la parte bonita de la creatividad, que yo te puedo crear de una imagen ordinaria, hacerte algo extraordinario para que sea recuerdo que tú tengas ahí, ¿verdad? Cada vez que tú lo veas, tú dices, wow, esta foto quedó espectacular. Otra de las cosas éticas, por ejemplo, hubo un concurso hace poco de fotografía, y entre las reglas de ese concurso de fotografía está que no se puede utilizar inteligencia artificial para manipular las imágenes, y la imagen pues, que ganó fue una imagen que crearon con inteligencia artificial, y la persona pues nunca mencionó que esa imagen fue creada con AI, y una vez subieron esa foto al Instagram, y el Instagram pues tiene una herramienta que identifica cuando las imágenes son creadas con inteligencia artificial y no son creadas, ¿verdad?, por una persona a través de un lente.
Thank you. And so with that, another question for our photographer. How do you think image creation is influencing the work of photography today?
Ok, la creación de imágenes ha influenciado bastante, ya que hoy en día se puede crear una imagen from scratch, desde cero, y verse legítimamente real. Tanto así que las personas que no sepan bien diferenciar una foto real versus una foto creada por AI se puede confundir y creer de que esa foto es completamente real. Ya cuando nosotros, ¿verdad?, los fotógrafos, adiestramos el ojo, podemos identificar, vemos algunos errores. El AI en fotografía mayormente todavía le falta, porque las imágenes que te crean son en baja calidad, o los pedazos de fotos que te crean son en baja calidad, que cuando le das zoom a la foto se puede notar. Lo más importante de todo esto es que utilicemos el AI, el Image Creation, como algo beneficioso para nosotros, no poder depender por completo. Por ejemplo, en mi caso, que yo me especializo más bien en bodas, utilizo mucho la parte creativa con lo que es el velo, la cola del vestido. Se la puedo estirar, se la puedo agrandar, puedo eliminar elementos que muchas veces nos ocurre, que cuando la novia está desfilando hacia el altar, están muchas personas metidas en el medio, y pues gracias al AI podemos mejorar todas esas fotos en un periodo bien corto, cuando antes pues teníamos que entregarle todas las fotos tal y como era. Yo creo que también hay que cuidar en la parte del fotoperiodismo y la parte comercial, mantener el AI lo menos posible para que todo se vea lo más genuino. Y como dijo Alberto, ¿verdad? Hoy en día el AI ya está a un nivel de que el mismo Instagram y las redes sociales te puede detectar. No todo el tiempo pasa, pero si hay una buena parte del AI, también te lo puede identificar.
And that always also happens at a college level. Like a lot of universities have software already that can, when you turn on your papers or whatever, they can see if they are AI generated or not. So as AI is advancing, so are the tools to detect it, to make sure that people are honest.
Yes, so it's quite important to be transparent about AI use, as well as use it as an enhancement, not become too overly dependent on it. Which leads us, now that you're talking about college, leads me to my last question for Mr. Joshua Castro. What advice would you give young creators looking to integrate AI in their career?
My advice is maybe something a little controversial, and is to not look AI as a tool. AI is not a tool. AI produces tool. Artificial intelligence, the purpose from its origin is not to create tools like ChatGPT and help you make better essays, or help you generate awesome photos. The purpose of AI is to create an artificial general intelligence and a system that can think and reason like a human. So my best advice for young kids is to start looking at this technology as something to coexist with. This is not the AI that you're looking up today is the most simple AI that we're gonna get. The growth that we're gonna experiment in the next 5 to 10 years is gonna be exponential. And it's something that is not intuitive to our human reasoning because we have never experienced something so fast as artificial intelligence. If you see ChatGPT 2 years ago versus what it's capable to do today, it is a progress that it could have been 5 years, 10 years. The CEO of OpenAI, Sam Altman, and the CEO of Anthropic, the owners of Claude, say that we're going to see the progress of the last 50 and 100 years compressed in 10 years. So my best advice is to start looking this as much more than a tool and how can you coexist with this new reality that we're going on.
So as the world advances, we have to adapt to AI, and we have to also figure out how do we use it because, like he mentioned, there's a lot of uses to it, and we're just getting the simplest version, so we can, we have to be able to maximize that potential.
Yeah, and he brings that really good point about learning to coexist, adapt to the development of AI. So this was a great discussion, don't you think, Alfredo?
I think it was. And so with that, we're going to move to questions. We're going to open up the floor to questions, and we'll see what you guys have to say.
Okay, Mr. Bennett is asking, what is a large language model, and how does the scraping of the web affect the output of the mold? Yes, I'll repeat that one.
A lot of technical jargon in that question.
Okay, so let's tackle it little by little. Okay, what is a large language model?
So I think I mentioned that in one of my responses. A large language model is basically the model that feeds your AI output. So when you use ChatGPT, Anthropic, or any AI-based engine and platform, the information that you get as output was collected through the entire internet's database into this, I guess, imagine it as a virtual library. And the artificial intelligence that Joshua was mentioning sort of gets educated with all this data that it collects from the internet. It gets educated, and it's like a human-like response. It's AI-generated content. So the large language model is like the library that feeds your AI.
The question had something about scraping as well, and that's something that, for example, the New York Times in their legal action against ChatGPT and OpenAI, they did not allow, they were just blocking that ChatGPT could scrape New York Times content. A lot of people who work in marketing and publishing are not necessarily recommending that you don't allow it to scrape your data because these LLMs, large language models, it always confuses me. They're going to start creating search engines as well. So for example, ChatGPT is trying out something that's called Search GPT, and just a little bit of basic information. Like when Google has your data and you do SEO, search engine optimization and stuff, you have to allow your site to be crawlable by these little robots that just pull the information from your site. So if you avoid ChatGPT from doing that or any other LLM that's creating search tools, then your content is not going to be searchable there.
I would like to add for the technical part. Large language models work in a very curious way because the technology behind that is deep learning. And I know most of you know that If it's AI, then we can control it. So if it's made by humans, then we know how to control it and how to give it certain parameters. But deep learning works in this way. Imagine we have a basket full of tomatoes and apples. I just give the input to deep learning, and what happens in the middle, I don't know how does it identifies which are tomatoes and which are apples. We just give large quantity of data, and itself, it can program itself to know, okay, these are tomatoes and these are apples. And that's how the large language model works. It just predicts which large quantity of data, which is the word that is most closely to go with the word before it. So that's why we get these hallucinations, we get misinformation from ChatGPT, because it's not reasoning yet. It's not taking a step back, understanding the question. It's just predicting and just spitting out which is the most probable answer that you're gonna get to answer. But in the next stage, that this is where we're heading right now, the level 2 of AI is where we're gonna get reasoners. Reasoners are gonna be, and we have, if you pay the $20 subscription of ChatGPT, you have a beta model called Strawberry, and Strawberry reasons in certain stacks, but we're gonna see a lot of these large language models start to reason and give more accurate answers.
So thank you. And with that, we're going to move to another question by Marcella. How can we draw the line between fair use and overuse of AI?
I think it's going to be something that has to do more with your ethics and how you view the world, because we have to understand that with technology, legislation, which is something that will actually help this sort of like what's ethical, what's not ethical, how do I use it or how I don't use it, it's really playing catch up. Like people in Congress or even in the Senate here, they don't even understand how Facebook works, how an algorithm works. So it'll come down more to your personal values and how you see it, and also how to not infringe certain laws in certain ways. I think that with any sort of technology, because even when before technology like this existed, if you were writing a paper and you were citing from an encyclopedia or somewhere else in the web, like you really had to put where you were having the information. If you just wrote it as such and said you wrote it, it was plagiarism. So it also comes down to what you know and how your ethics play here.
Yeah, I feel like that's a very valid point. It's quite subjective.
There's also a legal standard defining fair use under copyright. So you have to make sure that you, like I mentioned earlier, you only use the minimum necessary, and that your work somehow transforms whatever output you used from AI. So there are certain factors from a legal standpoint that you have to make sure you're using. But I would advise, in a practical way for high schoolers, make sure you use the minimum necessary to enhance your work or inspire your work, and make sure that you transform sufficiently whatever you get from AI and make it your own.
Yes, and with that in mind, thank you so much for sharing. We have another question for you. Is there a percentage set for AI intervention for the loss of copyright?
Ooh, that's a great question. So the law of copyright was created in 1976, and it's still the law that we use today. When the internet came out, there was this whole frenzy about Y2K. You guys were super young, probably not even born yet. People thought that the laws as they existed would not be applicable to this new internet phase and generation, and yet they were. They are very well written, and what is happening now is that the same laws are being applied to AI. So that's why we have the New York Times case of infringement, the Anthropic infringement by Concord Music. We have Getty Images suing other AI models. So there isn't a percentage, but the laws that exist today are being applied to AI, and I think it's gonna give way to create these lines that don't exist right now and sort of water down the gray area that is so big.
Thank you. And with that, we'll move on to another question. This one's for our photographers from Jamilet. Have you had an experience where AI ever failed you and significantly, took time for you to make your work?
Yo le contesto, sí. Ok, sí, básicamente al principio de cuando el AI llegó a la fotografía, no estaba tan desarrollado y sí, uno básicamente podía tardarse un poquito más que ahora en poder obtener los resultados que nosotros queremos. Ya hoy en día la inteligencia artificial ha evolucionado dramáticamente, que nos ha podido ayudar en remover personas, en generar una imagen nueva, cambiar cielo, crear, como dijo Alberto, un río, que antes lo podíamos hacer, pero haciendo un fotomontaje, que nos ocupaba demasiado tiempo y conocimiento también de los mismos programas. Pero antes nos tomaba mucho más tiempo en poder generar esa imagen.
Gracias.
This is for our photographers. How do you plan to manage any situations in which a client does not want the integration of AI, but instead wants the image to be completely real, although not possible?
Bueno, contestando a la pregunta, no siempre, yo utilizo AI, pero no siempre, no todo el tiempo lo utilizo dependiendo del lugar donde se realice la sesión de fotos. Si el cliente a mí me plantea que no quiere que se utilice AI por alguna razón, pues eso se le respeta y nuestro ojo va a hacer que le podamos crear las imágenes que ellos, ¿verdad?, tienen en mente. Cuando yo comencé la fotografía, lo que es la inteligencia artificial, pues obviamente eso no existía. Yo por lo menos tengo el conocimiento, y JJ también lo tiene, de poder remover elementos en las imágenes que nosotros no deseamos. Por ejemplo, si estamos en un lugar y hay por decirlo así, una persona que no debe estar en la parte de atrás, pues nosotros tenemos el conocimiento de poder eliminar a esa persona sin tener que utilizar la inteligencia artificial.
They have the knowledge and the tools to eliminate anybody or anything in the photo without using artificial intelligence. And they also have the knowledge to add stuff to the photos without using artificial intelligence. Yes, artificial intelligence is a very important and big part of their career, but if needed, they can use it. They can use like the computer only.
And with that, we're gonna move on to our final question of the evening, which is from Isel Pulisa, and this reads as follows. How can we prevent AI from developing on its own, given the fact that it can gaslight us humans?
Have you guys seen Terminator? Like, one of my deepest fears is Skynet. But I think we have to stop existing in echo chambers. Like, if we exist in echo chambers, and that's something that AI will sort of drive us to do, we won't be able to understand what's real and what's not. So for example, when you're going to do a paper, you use several sources to confirm the information you're getting. You don't only use Wikipedia, you go to some other reputable sites and just contrast it to make sure that the information you're getting is the right one. So you have to make sure that you're not existing in a space where you get not any other information. In terms of in the future, we really don't know. This is developing really fast. So if it's something that we are going to be watching as it grows, really.
In the industry, experts are working on the alignment problem. So how we can insert our values into the AI. As I said before, we cannot control the AI by totality itself, because what produces the answers, we don't know how it works. Me or Nobody at OpenAI or Anthropic can tell you quantitatively how the AI produces its answer. So how can we align the AI to our interests and work to our favor? As I said before, we need to learn how to coexist with this technology. And AI is going to replace a lot of people, but the people who do not know how to use AI are the ones who are going to be replaced, not the ones who know how to use it.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, ever since industrialization started, like humans are being substituted some jobs. So even you have to learn to use the technology to be able to not to have any other type of job. As I mentioned on Friday, for example, when I was studying in college, social media did not exist. So digital marketing did not exist. When I went to college, I studied journalism. When I was graduating, journalism was really a dying industry. It was like really just shortening the amount of jobs that were available. But my skills were good for content marketing, blogging, stuff that was actually coming up in that age. So yes, a lot of jobs are not, a lot of functions are going to be substituted with technology, any sort of technology. You just cannot be in denial of it, because if you are in denial of it, you're never going to be able to use it, and then you're going to be phased out of the job market for sure. And we also have to be very careful, because this conversation is a lot about generative AI, but there's a lot of types of AI, guys. So it's something that it's not only ChatGPT and generative AI.
There's a blog post that Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, launched like a month ago that gives a great perspective of what the next 10 years are going to look like. I invite you to look it up. It's called, if I recall, the domain is ia.samaltman.com, and it's called The New Era of Intelligence. So we know that the Stone Age was an age where the fire transistor from the Stone Age to the agricultural age, and now we're entering a new age beyond the internet and the information age. What is the intelligence age, where intelligence is a new currency? How much compute can you have? How much access to this technology can you have? So if you want to have a great insight of the next 10 years, I invite you to look up that blog post.
And it's going to be a lot of trial and error. Again, when factories did not exist in the 1800s, and when industrialization came into place, then a lot of contamination started to happen, problems that we as humans did not have before. So we have to be open to know that we're going to make a bunch of mistakes, and a lot of unethical things will happen when these things are developing. I mean, in the 60s, you had advertising for smoking without telling you it caused cancer. So as the more we know and the more we learn, the more we're going to be able to regulate, because regulation will be needed, and the more we'll be able to interact with it properly.
Yes, definitely. That sounds great, and I like how you all brought back the point about coexisting with AI and the fact that AI will replace some functions, but will also pave the way for new developments as well. So that was a great discussion, right, Alfredo? So a big thank you.
It's inspiring to hear how AI is being used across so many fields, from law to marketing to photography and education. Each of you gave an important insight into the opportunities, but also challenges of AI, and we're grateful for your practical advice here today.
And I feel like today's conversation reminds us that responsible use of AI is not just about being innovative, but also ensuring to follow ethical practices, protecting our privacy, and staying adaptable in this rapidly changing world.
We hope everyone here leaves with a sense of preparedness to engage with AI thoughtfully in their own lives, whether you're a student, professional, or teacher, or simply just someone curious about AI.
Once again, we would like to thank Ms. Vilmary Torres and Ms. Taira Rivera for helping make this event possible. And of course, all of you here for being part of this amazing panel discussion. So, yeah, Alfredo, up to you.
We have one last surprise for our finalists. These are some goodie bags for you for joining us here today. So we thank you for making the compromise. And one big last of applause for our panelists.
Thank you